know that this place already looks dramatically different than it did even a month ago. So a month from now in this spring, it will look even more different because of the hard work that you guys will put in today. So we say thank you for that.
Let us take just a moment to quieten ourselves. Gracious and loving God, Holy One of us all, thank you for bringing us all together today to do something new in this neighborhood. Thank you for the opportunity to create something that is going to provide food for our neighbors and that is going to provide a space for the community to come together for all kinds of good things, for gardening, for music, for just getting to know each other. We know that that is your dream for all of humanity, that we will all learn to be one. We ask your blessings on this day. We ask for the safety of all who are here, and we thank you again for your love and guidance in all that we do. We pray in your most holy name. Amen.
Amen.
Today we are in phase 2 of the building project that is a reward for the placemaking grant that we received from the city. This church has always been compelled to be an integral part of this neighborhood, and we looked around and saw that there was a ministry here that needed to be filled around food insecurity and getting the neighbors who have been here for 20 years to interact with the neighbors who have been here for 20 months.
So today we are building an orchard here at Chapel of Christ the King. It's about 40 to 50 fruit trees and fruit plants that we're putting into the ground in hopes of both creating canopy and just some green and creating some food for the community, some fresh fruit.
A year ago, I called Reggie Singleton to ask him about what we should do with this property, and he gave me an idea to write a grant for the placemaking grant, and so that's what started this. And last January we were awarded the grant. Rebecca Yarborough, our deacon, wrote the grant, and we received the award letter for that in January.
You know, I love that verse in John, that they all may be one. And I think that's one of the things that we as church are called to do, is create opportunities for people to come together, to have a chance to get to know each other so we all may be one.
You know, we've got the ground that's going to produce food that's going to be available to the neighborhood, and there are participants in the neighborhood that are going to help to cultivate it and harvest it, and then we've got various communities coming together. So, you know, it's about caring for God's people, caring for God's creation, so the earth, the plants, the people. That's how I feel.
So Tree Charlotte has worked with the Health Department and the North Carolina Extension Service for the past several years on creating these orchard projects. And our role in it is to source the fruit trees. So the Extension Service creates the plan and tells us what is the best kind of tree, best kind of fruit plant for the property that we're planting. And then we work with our grower in Georgia, and using our donation dollars, we purchase those trees and get them delivered. And a lot of times we'll bring in volunteers or expertise to kind of help the event run smoothly.
My name is Antonio Bell Jr., former student of Johnson C. Smith University. We're out here volunteering to give back, plant some trees. We've been volunteering with Trees of Charlotte for about 5 weeks now. Give us something to do, you know, give back and help the tree canopy in Charlotte. We just came out, helped out, you know, gave a helping hand, and you know, we'll go to another place if they need us.
So the reason it's happening here at Chapel Christ the King and on this property is that there is unused land, and there's so many individuals in this community that need access to fresh fruits and vegetables. And so this land has been converted to be a resource for the church community as well as to Optimist Park.
It's going to be a place where neighbors can congregate and be welcome, and also we're going to utilize some of the space for outdoor worship, maybe have some music concerts. The list is endless in terms of ways that we can use this newly designed outdoor space. And so this is really the first time since I've been at the chapel that we've really claimed our space for this kind of use.
We have a vision that we're going to do a lot of renovations to the church, and we're going to put some decks out here. We're going to have cookouts. We'll probably have picnics. We'll probably have music. We're going to have 2 meals a day here. We're going to open up internet. We're going to have laptops here. You know, like, man don't live by bread alone.
So usually these orchard projects are about a year in the making. So the health department's role is they help identify the churches through their various programs. So they do that. We talk about it, maybe 9 to 12 months in advance. Then we start these slow conversations about looking at the property, what does the church want, but then also what works well with the land. A lot of times people want like apple trees, but apples just don't grow well this warm in North Carolina. So we have to do some education, but we try to listen to what they want to. We create a planting plan, and over time get it approved. So and then work on the event day, getting the holes augured and everything. So yeah, it's really a good 9 to 12 month process by the time we get to planting date.
In the last 2 months, we went from this property having 15 diseased and dying trees to what you see before you today, a cleared property ready to be planted.
We've removed probably 15 to 20 trees from the property and done some extensive grading, demolished a few buildings in order to create space for an edible landscape.
There were, chain link fences dividing up sections of it, so now the property is open and all of these new plantings are going to create new life for the space.
When I first joined the chapel, I lived on Remount Road, and as I said, I was a transplant from New Jersey, so I was searching for a church. And when I came here, I found that the church was doing so much with the youth. There was an after-school program, there was tutoring going on, maybe 30, 40 kids. There were volunteers from Christ Church, St. Peter's, St. Martin's, various Episcopal churches volunteering their time to tutor the kids here. And I just fell in love with it. I said, if I want to invest my energy, my time, and my talent anywhere in Charlotte, I was going to do it here because I like what they were doing. And at the time, it was majority African American children. But then, as time went on, there were Laotian children and, Latino, Latinx children. So I've been involved since '92.
Chapel of Christ the King has been here since the 1920s. It started out as a mill church that was created by St. Peter's Episcopal Church downtown on 7th Street. In the 1970s, this church changed over and became much more of an African American church. And it's been an African American church since then. The unique thing about it is that it's been an African American church that's always had a diverse population. There's always been people from different races and different backgrounds have been a part of this church, which is still true today.
For the past 30, maybe 40 years, this has been a historically African American church, so majority, and it has become a very diverse church now. People of all ethnicities here. We have some Puerto Rican members, we have Caucasian, all are welcome. And love is the most important rule.
We constantly here are trying to figure out how to love our neighbor. One of the things that has always impressed me about this church, which has so few resources, is that even with their few resources, they're always thinking about how to share those with others. They have challenged me in being their pastor to constantly think about how can we, with the resources we have, be a positive agent in this community. And this idea came out of that conversation. One of the things they said to me when I came here is that our goal is to always honor the heritage of our Black history and our meal background. We wanted to make sure we always honored that heritage while we're looking ahead. And if you were to look to the right of me over here, we have the old neighborhood, which is people who bought into these habitat homes. And then if you look to the left of me over here, we have the neighborhood, which is the new condos and townhomes that just went up that are barely a year old. And one of our goals for this landscape was to create a place where those two communities to come together and learn to be neighbors, to recognize the food insecurity and to interact with that, and to learn how to love our neighbors who may be a little bit different than we are.
I think Boris Henderson, who you might have talked to, whenever I talk to him, he talks about what a huge influence the Chapel of Christ the King Center was on his life, and how important it is for communities to have a center.
You know, as a kid in Optimist Park, the Christ the King Center was really the center of the neighborhood. There was an after-school program, there was food services run out of the church. Those who've been in the neighborhood for a long time closely identify with the Chapel of Christ the King Center.
And I think this is a start at sort of reviving that idea that there can be a center even in this very transitioning community, where people can come together and be neighbors, be community, hang out, eat, listen to music, worship, just be together.
The other thing that we've done that we're very, very proud of, and this just happened this week, we have an emergency tax relief fund, and we just helped 12 families pay their property taxes so they could stay in their homes in this neighborhood. Boris he's the chair of the committee that not only created the program, but he raised the money. He's the fundraiser for the program, and it was his brainstorm.
So the property tax relief fund was really thought about and conceived through the listening circles we had with many of the folks in the neighborhood. And that was along with the UNC Charlotte Honor Leaders Program.
The church and the outside agency that was trying to do some sponsorship here. We was going to reunite the community with the church. I would go out and I would start telling the residents exactly what was going to happen. So therefore, when we had the circles here, I was just the support.
And during one of those listening circles, many people just expressed frustration and just nervousness and really the loss of hope from the inability to pay their rising property taxes for particularly seniors who are on limited incomes. And so that's the genesis of the idea. But then we created a committee with the folks from the neighborhood, Habitat, Charlotte region, the Bonner Leaders Program, and others to administer the tax relief fund.
So he came to us and our church members, along with Boris, put the program together and sent out the applications and interviewed the families and gave out the awards.
I mean, if you look at the history of Optimist Park, Habitat for Humanity plays a big part, and most of the older residents are Habitat homeowners. As I mentioned, I grew up in the Habitat house just right across from the church. So Habitat really built Optimist Park when nobody wanted to live in this community. And so a lot of those families are being impacted by, the rise in property values and property taxes and the changes in the neighborhood. So this tax relief fund is really a way to hold on to a big part of Optimist Park's history. For example, Jimmy Carter built houses, Habitat houses in Optimist Park. So there's a strong, rich history here in Optimist Park that will live on because of the tax relief fund and the edible garden and the other efforts that are in place.
Orchard trees can do 25 to 30 years, if tended well. Now I will say, I mean, urban orchards are challenging, and we learn every year something new about what we need to be doing to make sure that these trees do thrive. Not all of them will survive, and we'll try to come back in with some replacement plans. But if all goes well, the best of them will last about 25 to 30 years. I mean, you think about things, other ways that you can volunteer, and you sometimes worry, what impact did I make today? What will be the long-term effect of this? And what's so great about a tree is that, I mean, it works so hard for us every single day. And in its young years, it's really working hard. I mean, actually, some of the best air cleaning and water mitigation happens then. But then over time, it's going to create shade. And I mean, it is really one of those projects that you can see the benefits of again and again and again, and new benefits all the time that tree is bringing. So it's really exciting. So even though these fruit plants won't produce fruit for several years, it takes a good 3 years before they start producing. It's going to be something green, something to kind of watch grow. It's going to just be exciting for the community to kind of see it all come together as the church builds out the rest of its project.
Anytime you plant something, it's an exercise in hope, because you don't know whether it's going to take off or not. And we did a lot of planting today, but I think the other thing that we did is, to the best of my knowledge, this is the first time we've really had new neighbors and old neighbors come together and do anything together. And to me, that is incredibly hopeful. Can't wait till spring. It's just, it's going to be amazing, and it's just going to get better.